Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a build video on how to build this, which is the Gravity 250 from Fossil Stuff, and this, the Gravity 280. Both frames have a similar layout, and so I'll be showing you how to build them both. I'll be completely building the 250, and I'm going to be transferring parts from an old 280 into this nice new one. So, let's get started. Okay, so I've removed all the electronics from the old frame, which I'm going to re-put them back in this frame so you can see. So I've re-put the front two motors back on. For the 280 I'm using the RCX 2206 2250 kV motors. Now these motors are bigger than the ones in the 250 and so require bigger ESCs, and I've got the DYS BL Heli 30 amp ESCs. Now because these ESCs are bigger, you can't fit all four in this front section. So I'm going to have two in the front and two in the back compartment here. So let me just re-put these motors back on and lock tight the screws back in. Just before you completely tighten them down, just make sure that the little ring inside meets up with the inside of the frame and that they're not rubbing. So there we are, we've got the two front motors screwed on. We've got the front ESC here and the back ESCs in the back. Now I'm going to fit the power distribution board on. So I'll just grab Okay, now I've got the power distribution board fitted. I'm just going to put the two ESCs that I'm going to put in the back here, run the wiring down to these motors and fit them in with the twisted cabling. Just making sure it's slightly untwisted there so it fits through, and that goes in the back here, like so. And the other one will go in here, so I'll just quickly screw the back two motors in. Now I've fitted this motor, you can see it's all on nice and tight. Before I fit the other motor and put the ESC in position, I'm just going to put the LED strips through the slots in the back, like so, so that I can attach them onto here. Okay, so I've got LEDs fitted, which one's going to go here and the other is going to go on here like that. I can now fit this second back motor. Okay, so now we have all the motors fitted and cabling all in the right place. I'm just going to pop some zip ties on the arms to keep the motor wires from coming out and around the ESCs. Okay, so got the ESCs in the back, all the wiring. Now we're going to fit the nays. So the first thing we're going to do is sort out the motors. These are the DYS 1806 2300 kV motors. They come with a little bag with all the screws in and the top nut to put the prop on, so we'll take that out and put that on. So in the little bag we have 8 short screws and 8 long screws. The top bit to mount which you mount the prop on, and that goes on top of the motor, and a disc. So let's put them on. I recommend using some blue thread lock to keep them on and to save all the vibrations. So quickly do that. So that's this motor done. You need to do this for all 4 of these motors and remove everything from these little packets. Okay, so once that's been done, you need to remove this top nut. The ones that they come with aren't very good as they're all clockwise and will spin off in flight. It's best to replace them with these, which are M5 nylon lock nuts. Okay, so if you're using motors that all have the same colour wire, we need to indicate which wire is which before twisting them around. I'm going to do this by just putting a drop of Tipp-Ex on the end of each wire to indicate which wire is which. So on wire number 1, I'm just going to put a little dot. On wire number 2, I'm going to put 2 dots. And on wire number 3, I'm going to put 3 dots. Wait for that to dry. Now the Tipp-Ex dried, and you can clearly see each motor lead is marked. This is motor lead 1, this is 2, and this is lead number 3. Now to twist the cables, pinch the heat shrink so you don't damage anything inside, and just rotate. There we are, and that, as you can see, we now know which cable is which. Now if you're using black cables, lead number 1 represents the colour red, lead number 2 represents the black colour, and lead number 3 represents blue. So in the next steps, red as the first lead, black as the second lead, and blue as the third lead. If you have a USB plug-in for the BL Heli suite which you flash the ESC with, you don't have to worry about marking these, as you can reverse which direction the motor spins in that. But for those who haven't got that, this is an easy way to do it. Next I'm just going to twist these wires. This helps to keep the wires together and also helps to let the build look nice and clean. So yeah, we have all 4 motors done and ready to be mounted on the frame. Okay, so you get your motor, put it roughly in where it belongs, and here. You'll notice that this does not fit in, it's too thick. Put your finger behind the gap, push down the wire, untwist it slightly, and it should now fit through. But the end will remain twisted. Once you do it for all 4 motors, you can get a rough idea of what the frame's going to look like. And this one's looking rather good. Okay, so once that's done, you now need to remove them, and you'll notice that where you've untwisted it, that will remain. So remove the motors, and now on to the ESCs. Now I am running, sorry, let me just get them, the DYS BL Heli 16 amp ESCs. These work fine with these motors and will give us plenty of room in the frame. Next we're going to solder our motors to our ESCs. We're going to fit all 4 ESCs in the front like this. This will keep the front section nice and clean and give us plenty of space in the back for the power distribution board. So we need to get one of the ESCs. I'm just going to move this out of the way for now. Get one of the ESCs, and we need to solder these 3 leads onto here. Now to get the motor spinning 2 clockwise and 2 counterclockwise, we need to solder these cables in different orders. So first I'm just going to measure the length that this cable has to be on the frame so we can cut it off at the right place. So it needs to be there. Make sure I twist that, untwist that slightly, fit that in there. But this ESC is going to be the one that fits here. So the cables don't need to be too long, so it can keep it nice and short. You can solder directly to the ESC, but it could cause heat damage to the ESC if you solder it wrong, and so it's not really worth risking it, but it will save you a few grams. So I'm just going to cut these cables. As you can see, I've just marked on the wire where I need to cut it, so I'm just going to get my knife and cut straight through. Untwist these. Do that a bit for you, and then just using a knife, gently roll it across a few millimeters at the end. Using a nail, just pull that piece of heating off and twist it round. Once you've done that, bend it up, and then we can just tin it with our soldering iron. There we are. So once you've done that for your first one, do the same with the two other cables. Now we've tinned the end of these leads, we need to get our ESC, and we can either decide to solder it directly onto there, like that, or we can shorten the wires on the ESC as well. Now, just to make sure that it all fits, just do another quick test fit. So we could probably trim the ESC cables to about half the length, but I'm going to leave them as they are because it gives us plenty of room to move things around. So get the ESC, straighten out these, and grab our motor. Now, to get the motor spinning clockwise and counterclockwise, we have to solder two motors on with the cables like this, and two motors on with the cables with two cables swapped around. This one I'm just going to solder blue on the outside, red in the middle, and black on the far side. So grab the two leads that we're going to solder together. Don't forget to put a piece of heat shrink onto one side. Slide that down. I'll zoom in so you guys can see a bit better. And let's just solder these two up. Okay, so once they're all in position, get a bit of solder and solder them together. They should fit together quite nicely if you get a nice clean solder joint, and aren't going to come apart. Now with a piece of heat shrink, just recover it, and just using the reverse tip of the soldering iron. Now I need to do this for all three cables on two motors, so I'm just going to quickly do that now. There we are, one motor completed, and if we just move that out of the way, bring it back over the frame, retwist that, put this in here, there we are, all the cables fitting in nicely, and they can tuck in nicely up the top there. So there we are, we have one motor soldered on. So the same needs to be done to another motor, and then for the second motor, the ESC needs to be soldered on differently. Grab one of the other ones. Same process again, cut the wire off here, solder that on here, but so now we have the first motor soldered up. We have gone black wire, red wire and blue wire. That means for this one to spin the opposite direction, it needs to go blue wire, red wire, black wire. So we're just swapping the blue and the black wire around. So I'm just going to quickly solder those. So there we are. We have one going black, red, blue, and this other one going blue, red, black. So you just need to swap 2 wires around, and these 2 motors will now spin in opposite directions. Okay, now we fitted the front 2 motors and ESCs, we need to do the back 2. For the 250, as I said earlier, we're going to have all 4 ESCs up the front. However, if you're building the 280, you'll need 2 ESCs to fit at the back because they're slightly larger than these ones. They easily fit in the back like this next to the power distribution board, but you need to use the same steps as we did at the front with measuring the leads, cutting them to the right length, and then soldering onto the power distribution board. As we're having all 4 up the front, we need to keep the back motor leads as long as possible so that they can reach from the back down the channels and up to the front. That means, as you can probably see, I'll zoom in. As you can see, we're going to have all the length we need, so we're going to have to remove this heat shrink and desolder these bullets. So let's do that now. Okay, so now we've done that to both motors, we need to get our ESCs, and they need to be soldered onto here. So, like at the front of the frame, we need to have one motor being soldered on with the wires going like this, blue, red, black, and the other one going black, red, blue. So let's do that now. Okay, now we've removed the bullets. We just need to remove a little bit of the silicone wire so that we can solder it on nice and easily and tin the end of the leads once that's been done. So there we are. We've cut the tips off, soldered, unsoldered the bullets, added a little bit more length to the end, and now I've got to solder it to the ESC. So like the front, one motor needs to be blue, red, black, and the other one needs to be black, red, blue. So like the motors at the front, one needs to be blue, red, black, and the other one needs to be black, red, blue. So let's just solder those up now. So there we are. We now have the back motors and front motors all done and soldered up. But remember to put heat shrink on, because I forgot to do that on the back two motors, so I'm going to have to redo them, but I won't waste your time and do them now. Okay, so once all the motors are done with the heat shrink on, they next need to be fitted squash down all the wires, which are going to run under the nays, and the power leads are going to go straight to the back. So there we are. We have all the motors and ESCs soldered up. These just need to be soldered onto the power distribution board. Okay, now we have the ESCs soldered onto the motors and the ESC then soldered onto the power distribution board. We need to sort out the flight controller. The flight controller, which both the 250 and the 280 are based around, is this, which is the Acro Nage 32 flight controller. This is the Rev 5, which fits in the Fossil Stuff frames the best, but as the Rev 6 is relatively new and the frame hasn't been changed yet to suit it. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to solder these pins on. I've already gone ahead and done this. They need to be the horizontal pins so that they fit in the frame here in this position, which gives us lots of room. This means we've got room in the top plate above for extra things like the receiver and the video transmitter. What also needs to be soldered on are the side pins, which is for the receiver. If you're using the D4R2 receivers from FR Sky, you will also probably want to solder on the telemetry link and a battery or buzzer. If you're new to soldering and don't want to solder it yourself, you can get pre-soldered ones, but if you do want to give it a go and you're new to soldering, I strongly recommend getting some masking tape or just any tape and put it around the board just outside the boxes, so that should you accidentally slip and touch one of the resistors, you don't completely remove it and damage the whole board. So now I'm going to, because I'm running the D4R2 receivers which have the telemetry link, I'm going to solder on a buzzer and the telemetry cables. So I'm just going to do that now. Okay, the cable we need to solder on is this one. It is a cable which has a socket at one end but just wires at the other. I'll just zoom out for you so you can see me do this a bit easier, a bit better. Okay, so here we have it. There's the wire. Now, so on the bottom you can see here marked, it says battery . Come on, focus. Okay, I've just zoomed in for you. As you can see on the bottom we have VBAT, which is where you solder on your battery straight from your power distribution board so you can get voltage telemetry. We have buzzer, which is for lost model alarm or battery buzzer if you want to put that on, and telem, which is for telemetry. I'm going to be using this, which is a D4R2 receiver from FR Sky. This has the telemetry port in the side where you just simply put in this lead and you solder this onto your naze and it will give you live telemetry. So I'm just going to do that now and solder it up. Okay, so what we need to do is to get the telemetry from our receiver, we need to cut the red and white wires off. The black goes to the black one goes to the outside of the board and the green one into the inner hole. As you can see on the board, it says telem, so that's where we solder it on. So let's do that now. So that goes into the side of here to give our live telemetry to our receiver, to our transmitter. So now we just need to solder this onto here. So the black one goes to the outside of the board, which is the negative, which is here, and the green one goes to the inside of the board, which is here, and that's for the telemetry. So I'm just going to do that now. So you can solder it on the bottom or the top. I'm going to solder it on the top just so it makes it a little bit easier to solder on, so then I know I'm not going to damage any of the components on the top. And also it means that we can easily position this cable to where we need it. Black one's soldered into position on the outside and the green one on the inside. There we are. We have the telemetry lead soldered on. Now for the buzzer. Okay, so I have my buzzer here, and I've got a red and a black lead, so I'm just going to tin it and solder it onto the buzzer. So there we are, I've got the buzzer all soldered up. Now, if you don't have any heat shrink to put on it, you can always just put some tape around, but I'm going to put some heat shrink on, so let me just grab some. Okay, now we soldered on the telemetry, we need to solder on the buzzer. I'm just going to cut down these wires a little bit, because I'm going to try and get the buzzer to go right at the back here. So we just make sure they're long enough. So I'm going to have it going in the back to here. So the wires are long enough, so let's remove this. Now we need to solder this onto the naze. Remember the black always on the outside because it's the negative, and the red on the inside. And finally we're going to solder on the cables which are going to go straight to our power distribution board. I'm going to use the cables that we cut off earlier from the telemetry just to solder them on. So I'm going to do the white one to represent negative and the red one to represent positive. So I'm just going to tin each end of the wires. So there we are. We now have all the wires soldered onto the naze. Now these steps don't have to be done if you're not running telemetry, but I recommend you fit a buzzer anyway. So there we are. So these two cables on the end are soldered onto straight to the power distribution board so we can get a battery reading. We've got the buzzer in the middle and our telemetry link for RSSI and all the battery voltage stuff. So that is the naze soldering complete. All that needs to happen now is needs to be fitted inside the frame like this. Telemetry going to the receiver. I'm going to have the beeper coming over everything. I'm going to sit in the back here. And these two cables which solder directly to the power distribution board to give us a live battery feed. Okay, now I've done all of that. We need to now solder everything to the power distribution board. Okay, next we're going to solder our XT60 connector which fits in the top of the frame. Just attach it in here. First I'm going to solder on the positive. It's indicated on the bottom, you can't really see it. There's a little plus on the bottom, so I'm just going to stick it in around this way because it creates a little cup, you can see, which you need to get a little bit of solder in. So you just tin your piece of wire. See the little plus mark there, and the negative on the top there. Just need to solder in the positive. So now once you've got the cable to the right length, just tin the other end. And clip that. So now we've got both wires to the right length, and those pieces of wire are, the bottom length of wire is 4.5 centimeters long, roughly, and the black piece of wire is roughly 3 centimeters long. So now I've got that done, we just need to solder that onto the power distribution board. Okay, now we've got to solder up this, which is the power distribution board. As you can see, marked on one side we have the positive, marked on the other side we have a little negative, which is the size of the negative. At the top we have a 5V outlet, 12V outlet, and 2 holes at the bottom for LEDs, and a switch to turn the LEDs on and off. So we need to solder up the pads on this side and this side, and we'll do that one for 5V in a second. So we've now got this all soldered up. Next we need to get a cable. Now we've got the power distribution board all tinned, we need to now solder the ESCs onto the power distribution board. Now I fitted all the ESCs in the front so I know roughly where they're going to be. And as you can see, the holes marked in the frame. Just like that. So we've got a rough idea of where the leads need to go. So we've got the negative on this side and the positive on this side. Once you've got them all in position, we're not going to fit this into the frame as it may cause some damage to the frame if we touch it with the soldering iron, as it's going to melt. So with all 4 of the ESCs fitted in the front, I'm just going to grab this, attach that onto there, and just start soldering the leads on. There we are, we've now finished soldering them all up. Just gently move them to make sure they're all on there properly. Make sure all the wires fit still. Yep, they all fit good. Now we need to solder on our XT60 connector. I've just got to put a bit of heat shrink. Oh, sorry. I've just got to put a bit of heat shrink over the connections. There we are. So now we've got the XT60 connected on. That just needs to be soldered on. Remembering which side the connector has to go, so it's got to go in here like that. I've cut this. I've made this the negative shorter. There we are. So we've now got that soldered in. Okay, so now we've soldered that up, we need to touch it. As you can see, I'll zoom in for you a bit better, so you can see a bit better. As you can see, these holes don't line up. They will if you pull this, but we don't want to strain any of these solder joints, so I'm going to push it forward slightly and meet it up with one of these holes. The screw you need is an M3. As you can see, I fitted an M3 screw to hold the power distribution board down. Ideally, you'd use a plastic screw, but I didn't have any of them lying around, and also this frame's made of plastic, so there's not as big an issue of things short-circuiting. As well as that, I'm just going to put a little plastic washer on top. This washer is actually the middle of a prop, because in a set of props you get an adapter to suit different prop shafts. I'm just going to put this on here, because then it helps to reduce any stress on solder joints on the bottom from your 5V or 12V if you're going to run an FPV camera off of that. So I'm just going to do the other one. And you can now see the power distribution board is in nicely. If you're running telemetry like I am, you're going to need to solder these two cables on, the red to the positive and the white to the negative, so we can get live battery feeds. So I'm just going to do that now. Okay, now we've soldered the ESCs to the power distribution board. We need to make sure that we have two motors spinning clockwise and two motors spinning counterclockwise. To make sure this happens, we need this motor here, the left front motor, to have the wires coloured blue, red, black, and that will ensure that it spins clockwise, and it means that we need to have, let's put those back in, this motor spinning counterclockwise like that, and so that means we need to have the wires going black, red, blue. That means that also opposite on this motor we also need the wires black, red, blue, and that on this motor we need them blue, red, black. So that's the order that we need them. Once we've got them in the right order, let's flip it over. We need to now put all the screws in the bottom of the motors, once again using a little bit of Loctite to stop them from vibrating free. So I'm just going to do that. Okay, now I've done that, we need to fit these cables. Now, I'm going to be running clean flight on this, on the nays, so that means that the motor directions are, so this is motor 1, this is motor 2, this is motor 3, and this is motor 4. So now, taking the cables, we need to connect them up. So I'm just going to start with this one on the outside, which goes to this motor here, so this is motor 2. So as you can see marked on the bottom of the board, zoom in so you can see that. The motor numbers, so this is motor 1, motor 2, motor 3. So this is motor 2, so this needs to go in this port with the black facing upwards on the top. So put that into motor slot number 2, like so. And now we just need to do that for the rest of the motors. So I'm going to just follow the leads and do that now. Okay, so now we've got all the motor and ESC cables going in. We need to fit this, which is the 5V, into one of the spare channels. Okay, now we've got the ESC cables and the 5V cable plugged into the naze just needs to be fitted down. So now I've got the naze fitted, we just need to make sure all the cables fit in. I'm going to got the buzzer at the back, got my XT60 here. I'm just going to plug the telemetry into the cable into the telemetry port in my receiver, which I'm going to be running the FR Sky D4R2, and I'm going to have the receiver up the front here. So that's it. The build is complete. I also fitted some LEDs on the back, and so you can switch them on and off, but I'm just going to leave them on. So that's it. Just now need to fit the top plate. So I've now put the top plate on. As you can see, everything fits in nice and cleanly, no issues. Just make sure that all the cables have gone inside the frame, like so. And there we are. We have now finished the build of the Fossil Stuff Gravity 250. In my next video, I'll be showing you how to set up the Naze 32 acro board in Clean Flight, and sharing some PIDs that I'm going to be using on this so that you can get yours up in the air as soon as possible. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like, comment and subscribe, and don't hesitate to ask any questions. Just pop them in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. Bye.